All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Monday, you do have a vocab quiz on any word from 1 through 20. We're doing a primary. You guys had such a good time doing that last time, so I can't wait to see what you guys do. I have it. Don't worry, I'll hand it to you the day of. On Tuesday, you have a lecture. I can ask you any vocab quiz word I want. On Wednesday, you do have a test. It is 30 minutes long. We're going to stay here for at least 2 tests. If everyone is hitting the 30 minutes pretty easily, then we're going to start cutting time again, but we'll be here for at least 2 weeks. So going from here on, we're going to hold the 30-minute mark for 2 weeks. Then when we shift to 29, we'll at least hold that for 2 weeks and kind of keep cutting. So it's not like a straight plummet. So to get used to that, your focus, your map, and your primary are all due. Did you notice it's a short focus? Doesn't that give us a little bit of joy? In a class that has no joy, specifically you people are the most negative people I have all day. So that's a positive, right? On the top of your notes, causes of World War II. I do want to review a couple things before we get really going here. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the failure of appeasement. It is the failure of appeasement that causes World War II. Hey, Jory. Hi, I haven't seen you in forever. It's so nice to see you. Hopefully doing something fabulous. Oh, well, it's nice to see you, Jory. Okay, so Hitler will take over the Rhineland, Czechoslovakia, and the Sudetenland, which is all up here, nope, sorry, I got distracted by Jory. I was just so excited to see her. Rhineland, Czechoslovakia, and Sudetenland will all be received by Hitler under appeasement. He gets all 3 of those in appeasement. Now, you need to know that the pinnacle of appeasement is the Munich Conference or the Munich Agreement. The Munich Conference is when all these countries get together to talk. The actual paper they sign is the Munich Agreement. Do we see? You can use either of them interchangeably. Munich Conference, Munich Agreement. Now, you need to know about the Munich Conference is that it's going to be led by the British. It is going to have all the major countries in it that you would think. And it is going to be led by Neville Chamberlain. Now, he is historically known for making a famous quote after it. Okay, so in the conference, he, spearheading, allows Hitler to have Czechoslovakia and the Sudetenland as long as Hitler says he won't conquer anything else. Well, what, of course, does Hitler say? Okay, I'm not going to conquer anything else. So Neville Chamberlain goes outside, speaks to the press in this huge speech, and says, the second greatest peace of all time has been achieved. Well, guess what's going to happen? Hitler's going to invade Poland on January 22nd, 1939, and that peace is ended. Now, what happens to your boy Neville Chamberlain? He steps down as prime minister, and who steps up? Churchill. Keep in mind, people did not really like Churchill when Churchill stepped into the position, but that's a whole other thing. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, you need to know that Hitler receives Sudetenland, Czechoslovakia, and Rhineland via appeasement. It is the Munich Conference that is a perfect piece of evidence for appeasement. Appeasement ends with the invasion of Poland. And that is when England and France declare war against Germany. Now, friendly reminder, the Russians or the Soviets do not declare war. Why? They have a non-aggression pact, which will stand until 1941. Everything hits the fan in 1941. So when you're thinking about when do events occur, it's probably 1941. When do a certain country come to the war? 1941. When are the big events? Probably 1941. Okay, so when we are talking about this, okay, you also need to know that the Japanese are going to be playing a major role. So we're going to start with Japan as your next heading. Okay, a couple things you need to know about Japan. Japan has been unchecked since World War I. What does that mean, unchecked? Neil, what does it mean? No, they're unchecked. What does that mean? Hayden?
Their powers being monitored?
Yeah, their powers aren't being monitored. No one's holding them accountable. Okay? So they can do whatever they want and get away with it. If you know you can get away with something, are you going to do it? Are you going to keep doing it? Is it going to get more and more flagrant? Yes, of course. Okay? As I say that going into Gasparilla weekend. Anyway, so when we talk about Japan, they have been unchecked for like almost 20 years at this point. So they have amassed a ton of territory and a ton of power in the Pacific. Then, as Hitler is starting to build his conflict, then they start challenging Japan's authority. How's that going to go? Yeah, if your parents have left you alone and let you do whatever the hell you want, and then all of a sudden they decide to be a parent again, how does that make you feel? Drives you crazy, yes? The same type of thing is happening with Japan. They're getting incredibly frustrated. There's a couple things you need to know about Japan, okay? First thing is that they've been unchecked for quite some time. The second thing is they are completely dependent on American oil. Is it good for a country to be dependent on another country? No. Here in the United States, are we dependent on another country?
Yeah.
Yes, we are. It's not technically a country. It's called OPEC. It's 7 countries that are oil producing and exporting countries. It's led by Saudi Arabia, which is the largest oil producer in the world. Venezuela is a part of it just because they're third largest oil producer in the world. With that being said, they control. So if OPEC wanted to increase prices, do we have any power over that? No. So in 2022, are gas prices going up or going down? They're going up. So when people start yelling at Joe Biden, it's Joe Biden's fault that the gas is increasing. Is it? No. It wasn't Trump's fault or benefit that gas prices were going down either. You know that, right? Presidents don't really have control over what the price is at the pump. There's a couple things presidents can do, both Trump, Biden, whoever the president is, in order to help stabilize the prices a little bit, but the whole control goes to OPEC. The reason why the prices were low for Trump is because OPEC was trying to crash the oil prices so they could take over Venezuela. Guess what they did? They took over Venezuela. Okay? Now prices are going up because they now have control over Venezuela. So when people get mad at Biden, and there's a lot of things to be mad at Biden about, like I'm not here, but is gas prices Biden's fault? No, it's because we are dependent on another organization. When they jack up the price, we feel it, and there's not much we can do about it. That's what's happening with Japan right now. Japan, in the 1930s, are completely and utterly dependent on the United States. We know this. So what do? We put sanctions on it. You need to know that. We are going to try to rein Japan back in. Now that we're paying more attention, okay, so we had our own problems, the end of the war. We didn't want to be involved in the war. We have the Great Depression. Now all of a sudden we have all of this, we're hearing all of this noise coming from the Pacific, and we look over and we're like, holy shit, look at all these things that the Japanese have taken over. Now we're like, oh God, we got to keep them in check. So we weren't watching, and now we're overly watching. So we start putting sanctions. Well, the Japanese are going to continue what they're doing with the sanctions. Now after sanctions goes cutting. We eventually, and you need to write this down, will eventually cut off the Japanese oil supply, which means from 100% they go down to about 12% oil production or oil supply. Ladies and gentlemen, here in 2022, if OPEC cut our supply from 100% supply to 12% supply, what would we do? We would invade their country and we would absolutely blow it to hell. Would you agree? If you cut American supply of oil from OPEC, who controls all of the world's oil and supply, America would stop. School would be canceled. If OPEC refused to sell us any more oil, school would be canceled because we can't get you here. We can't burn the fossil fuels in order to power the lights. You can't drive here. The buses can't get here. The trucks that bring the food to get here. All of society would come to an epic standstill. It's not just schools closed. Your parents' works are closing. The grocery stores, who are already experiencing some rough times. I went to Publix yesterday. Good God, there's some really empty shelves. They're going to have nothing on the shelves because we can't move the food supply. It would be a complete and utter disaster, and our entire economy would stop. How do you think cutting Japan's oil supply from 100 to 12% did for Japan? Oh, the same exact thing. So, what are they going to do about it? They're going to bomb us. And that's what they do. And where do they bomb us? Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. Okay? Is it an out of nowhere attack? Is it unexpected? No. The United States knew that the Japanese were going to do something. They didn't know where, and they didn't know how effective. Now, you need to know a couple of things. The reason why they picked Pearl Harbor is because that is where our largest Pacific fleet is located. So they specifically targeted the ships that would be the ones killing Japanese if they went to war. It is also important to know, you don't need to write this down, but it kind of summarizes the story. At the beginning of World War I, we only have 4 aircraft carriers. Aircraft carriers are brand new technology. We only have 4 of them. The Japanese have 12 of them. The Japanese have been in constant war because they're conquering territories for about 20 years. America took some time off in the Great Depression. We only have 4. 2 of them live at Pearl Harbor. Luckily for us, those 2 were out. They left the day before and were not in the harbor the morning of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Good for us that we had, instead of bombing the whole island like they were planning, or 3 different parts, they only focused on the major one, which was actually Pearl Harbor, not the other surrounding naval ports. Because they didn't bomb the other ports on the island, there was a ship rebuilding station on the other side of the island that was allowed to do a lot of the repairs. So it took about 2 years to get us back on our feet. And during those 2 years of getting back on our feet, the Japanese are going to be winning the war in the Pacific. So please keep in mind. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor, you need to know on December 8th, 1941, the United States declares war on both Japan and on Germany. Okay. Izzy, did you have a question?
Oh, I was going to ask what the date was for Pearl Harbor.
Oh, December 7th, 1941. Okay. It is also the largest attack on American soil post American Revolution. It is the deadliest day for Americans post-American Civil War. And it will stand the deadliest day until what day? 9/11 will beat it. Okay, about 1,800 Americans, I believe, die at Pearl Harbor. We lose about 2,115 on 9/11. Okay, so that's Japan. They are an imperialist nation and they are conquering territories like crazy. Let's go to Germany. So your next heading is Germany. You need to know that Germany is untouchable for 2 years. Everything they touch, they win. And in dominating force. So the first place they directly conquer outright is Poland, and you need to know that. They go to Poland. Once they conquer Poland, they are then going to do Belgium and Denmark. And then the third one is what massive country? That's a world power. France. The third one is France. No, they're not going to Russia yet. Okay, so they are going to use the military strategy of blitzkrieg, ladies and gentlemen, which is right here if you don't know how to spell it. Blitzkrieg is fast-moving tanks, aerial bombing, and large troop force. Blitzkrieg is aerial bombing, fast-moving tanks, and large troop presence. Okay, that is blitzkrieg. He practiced this where Franco lives. And where does Franco? Spain. He practiced in Spain in the Spanish Civil War. He perfected it in Spain, and his first rolling out is in Poland. He conquers Poland in 3 days. That's insane. Okay, he conquers Poland in 3 days. I mean, he conquers Denmark in like a week. He conquers Belgium, I think, in like 12 hours. I'm just kidding, but kind of. And then France. France will fall in 3 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. You do need to know that. France will fall in 3 weeks. You need to know that the French government is going to evacuate France and go to England. The French government will evacuate France and move to England. We'll live in exile. Okay? You need to know that the Germans are going to set up a pro-German government in France called the Vichy. V-I-C-H-Y. Vichy government. Which is a pro-German French government. V-I-C-H-Y. The Vichy. Now, in 1939, after Hitler invades Poland, what we're going to see is that England and France declare war. Well, what country just fell? Who's left? England. Well, the United States isn't in the war because we're in 39 right now. United States isn't in the war. England is the only country left. What you need to know, ladies and gentlemen, is that once France falls, Hitler is going to bomb England for 9 months. And this is what we call the Battle of Britain. Okay, Hitler bombs England for 9 months, day and night. Like, the amount of bombs they drop is like crazy insane numbers. Okay, what do you got, Taylor?
Where is the Vichy government?
In France. It's the German-supported government in France.
Is it the Battle of Britain? Or
Battle of Britain. Okay, a couple things you need to know about the Battle of Britain. It was supposed to, the aerial bombing was supposed to weaken the British so the Germans could invade by land and sea. Okay, so the whole point of the Battle of Britain was to weaken the British so they could actually put troops on the ground and conquer England. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in the history of England, there's only been one person to conquer England. Who is it? Huh? The U.S. doesn't conquer England. I mean, like, invade England and take it over. His name is William the Conqueror, and it happens in 1095. The Queen of England is a direct descendant of this. What?
Is the French, like the William the Conqueror, is like from France?
Yeah, he's from Normandy, actually. He's from Normandy, so technically the British Empire, the British throne is French, which is something the French love. But yeah, the Queen of England is a direct descendant of William the Conqueror, and William the Conqueror is the only person in the history of the world who's ever conquered Britain. Napoleon couldn't do it. Hitler tries doing it. Hitler is going to fail. Fun fact. Now, something else you need to know. During this time, America is neutral. Okay? America is technically neutral in 1939 and 1940. However, we want to support our friends, don't we? So, what we do is we create something called the Lease Act. Okay, we create something called the Lease Act. Now, you need to know that FDR and Churchill are obsessed with each other. They're like the best of bros, and they have the greatest time for each other. And FDR wants to help his buddy, so we create the Lease. The Lease, this is something you'll spend like a week on in a push next year. We, as the United States, are giving England weapons and saying that they can pay for it in 20 years. Why are we doing this? Because it's illegal for a neutral country to give aid and collect payment. So what are we doing? We're delaying payment to try not to be illegal. Is it illegal what we're doing? Yeah, for sure it is. But we're just like fudging the line a little bit and trying to get away with it. Do we get away with it? No. But we get pulled into the war anyway. Okay? So the Lend-Lease program is how we're trying to support the British. It's pretty successful. We do move a bunch of guns and weapons to them. However, it is going to get more aggression against us by the Germans. All right, guys, let's go to the boards. Lend-Lease Act.
How do you spell that?
Lend, L-E-N-D, lease. Okay, on your whiteboard, whiteboard. What is it called when when England, France, the United States keep giving Hitler things like the Sudetenland, the Rhineland, and Czechoslovakia? Good. What do we got, Maggie?
Appeasement.
Appeasement. The pinnacle of appeasement is what meeting? Good. Taylor. Munich. What is the name of the prime minister who's going to come out and say a second great peace has been accomplished? You gotta give me his last name. You can't just say his first. You're not buddies. Scott. Neville Chamberlain. On your whiteboard, please tell me the official World War II begins after the invasion of what country? Good, James. Poland. On your whiteboard, please tell me what is the name of the 9-month bombardment on England called? Good. What we got, Chris? Battle of Britain. On your whiteboard, why did the Japanese bomb us at Pearl Harbor? Good. Andrew.
We cut off their oil.
We cut off their oil supply. Okay. On your whiteboard, please tell me what year did Hitler invade Poland? Good. Virginia. 1939. So the war for everyone else starts in 1939. For the war for us starts in 1941. All right, here we go. So the Germans are going. We left off with the German bombardment of England, right? Okay. There was something I really wanted to tell you though. Like really. Anyone here been to London? Okay. If you've been to London, does it look like you expected?
Yeah.
Does it look old?
It looks kind of modern.
It is modern. Why is it modern?
Because they had to rebuild it.
Yeah, it was built in the 1950s. London was built in the 1950s. There's a couple old structures and stuff like that. If you do tours, they're like, look at our old building. Woo. Because there's so few left because of the Battle of Britain. Raise your hand if you've been to Paris. Okay, Paris looks exactly like you hope it does, doesn't it? It is beautiful. It has these old buildings everywhere. And why? Scott, why? Hitler did not blow it up. Why didn't Hitler blow up Paris? Just keep it in his pocket. Like, there's a reason, but yes. Joseph, why?
He went to be like the art museum or like his
Yeah, he was trying to build the largest art museum in the history of the world to add to the glory of Germany. Remember, he wanted to go to art school, so he loves and has an appreciation for art. What is the world capital of art? France. What country has more museums than any other country? What? All the art questions is about. Gonna answer France. So he doesn't bomb France. The Blitzkrieg does not occur in France because he does not want to blow up these buildings because he wants to go there and steal all the art from the Jews, from the art institutes, from all the museums in order to build his museum. Once you get a little bit further in history, Ren's going to keep pointing at paintings and say, this doesn't exist anymore. This is gone. Hitler took this one. Hitler took this one. This one has been lost to history. We recovered this one. Because most of the major paintings, especially of the modern era, Hitler is going to burn them because he hated modern art. So some of the great works of the great artists we only have pictures of. You can't actually go see because Hitler burned them. So, fun fact. Okay, so it is important for you to know that Hitler gets bored bombing England. And decides to invade the Soviet Union. Okay? What is going to save England? Hitler getting bored and deciding to go to the Soviet Union. Churchill has come out and said that if they were being bombed for another week, England would have collapsed. The pressure was just too much. The bombings were too much. The complete breakdown of society was too much. I mean, every single night people are sleeping in the tube system underneath London. There's no children in London anymore. You've read, what's the stupid book series? where the kids get put on a train in the first
The
couple of...
boxcar shelter.
No, that's in America. No, you've read the books. It's where they go live with the uncle who's far. Narnia. Chronicles of Narnia. It starts with the train. Yeah, it's from World War II at the Battle of Britain. All the children of London get put on trains and get sent to the countryside to protect them because their parents need to work. That's why all those children are on trains and stuff like that. So,
What can they get to in Narnia? So it's like, thank you.
yeah. Except, Narnia's not like a real place. And the death of their parents is, but that's okay.
Well, I did. But
Yeah,
Narnia
go. Okay, so Hitler is going to invade the Soviet Union. Hitler is going to invade the Soviet Union on the same day Napoleon did, only about like 120 years later. How'd it go for Napoleon? It's going to go terrible for Napoleon. It's going to go even worse for Hitler. There are two major advantages Russia has. Who can give me one? You need to know this. This is why Russia keeps winning things. What do you got? Let's go. The Russian winter, ladies and gentlemen, is why Russia wins. Okay? One of the biggest complications to the Ukraine crisis right now is if we put troops on the ground in Ukraine, we don't have enough winter uniforms to put them down. We also don't have the type of gear that you need to function in Ukraine at this time of year. We have some, but do we have enough to wage a whole war? Who has plenty? Yeah, so that's a huge part of this whole play with us today in 2022. We don't have the gear in order to engage Russia in January because no one can beat Russia in January. So, Russian winters is a huge asset for Russia. Second asset of Russia is what? Henry?
They have more people.
Yeah, dude, they can kill more people and not even flinch. They have so many people that they can just send boys out to get massacred in order to use up bullets. Yeah, they are sending boys to war with no guns in their hands because they're trying to use up as many German bullets as possible. Because they don't have anything else. They have two assets, winter and men. That's all they have. So Hitler is going to invade. He's going to invade. There are two major cities that you need to know for the fighting of the Soviet Union. City of Leningrad and Stalingrad. Leningrad is going to be the first major direct conflict between the Soviets and the Germans. Now keep in mind, Hitler's invasion is a surprise to the Russians and, of course, the rest of the world. It's going to catch the Russians off guard. The Russians at the borders are letting the Germans through because they thought they were on friendly terms. Germans don't really shoot a gun until they're about 75 miles into Russia. Everyone's just like, oh my God, our friends are here. Yay! And then once they start getting challenged, then they start shooting and stuff like that. Okay? Stalingrad is the biggest. Stalingrad is going to be a 3-year war. Leningrad and Stalingrad are both 3 years wars. Stalingrad is the biggest. Why do you think it's the biggest? And why do you think they're going to put more men and more machines in that city? Stalingrad. It's named after Stalin. And who's the leader of Russia? And what city will he not let fall? Stalingrad. So he is going to spend 3 years. Millions of people are going to die in this city. They're also fighting against the German 6th Army. And you don't need to write this down because they're not going to ask you any questions on it. The German 6th military is like the creme de la creme of the German fighting forces. The best sharpshooters, the best of your, I'm not a military person, but it is the creme de la creme. That's what they're famous for. When you think of the German strength and the German power, you think of the 6th. Now, in the movies I was telling you yesterday, you know how I talked about a list of movies, it's online. I told you most of them can be found for free on Prime, or you can pay $2 or $3 to see them if you're interested. It's all on Canvas. I made it. Did you see it? If you go in the modules, you'll see movies that tie to this week's content. It's all right there for you because 8th period was really into it. Enemy at the Gates is on the must watch before you die. It is about Stalingrad and holding the city. The best sharpshooter in the history of the world is Vasily Zaitsev, and it's played by Jude Law, who is this main character of Enemy at the Gates. The sheer death is obscene in this city, and how they hold this city is just grotesque. Enemy at the Gates. It's on Prime. It's free. I don't know, some of these things could be on Netflix. I just tried doing quick searches and I could find them. So if you're interested in the Soviet, it's my favorite war movie ever. Enemy at the Gates is the best war movie I've ever seen, and that includes Saving Private Ryan, which is amazing, but I think Enemy at the Gates deserves more recognition. Okay, you need to know that the invasion of the Soviet Union is going to cost Hitler the war. He will lose World War II because of this invasion. Okay? It's also going to kill millions and millions and millions of people. More importantly, it's going to destroy Hitler. Why does it beat Hitler? Why does it cause him to lose the war? Think about it logically. It makes perfect sense. Why? Izzy?
Because he opened up 2 fronts.
Okay, he's going to open up 2 fronts, but why else, James?
He's like focused a lot of his power there.
It's going to take a ton of resources, and that's the biggest thing. The Germans aren't really even getting shot at for most of it, honestly. They're literally just sitting there going, shooting down all these Russian boys who are running at them with, like, no guns. Okay? They're just sitting there going, and they're just killing everyone. The problem is that they're there instead of doing it in other places. Does that make sense? It just still takes men, it still takes tools, it still takes bullets, it still takes guns. It takes that drain, that financial drain, that pulls it from other places. So when the U.S. joined the war, what we're going to see, it's going to drain too many resources and eventually lead to the break. Okay, here we go. Japan in the home front, ladies and gentlemen. So, after Japan bombs Pearl Harbor, the United States joined. Okay, in 1941. You need to know, we immediately declare war on Germany and Japan. We immediately go where first? No, we go to Germany first. We start in Germany right away. Keep in mind, our Pacific fleet has been heavily damaged, yes? So we are a little bit slow to mobilize over there to start. And who's our bestie? England and France, right? So they need our help, and FDR loves Churchill, so he's trying to get over there first. It's really important that you understand that. Now, it is important for you to know that the Japanese are overplaying their hand. They thought America was going to surrender after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Okay? They really thought we would surrender because no one has ever directly challenged our authority since the American Revolution. Obviously, that does not go well for them in the long term, but we'll get to that. Now, it is important that you see that in the home front, we're going to have a total war. You need to know that. That terminology is super important for both World War I and II. What does total war mean, Parker?
It's when you pour all your resources and like people and everything.
So, is it just soldiers, or it's soldiers and
Civilians.
Yes, absolutely. So here at home on the home front, 3 days a week, all the boys in the room would go to like marching camp, and you would learn how to like shoot and march and stuff like that. So the time you turn 18, you could roll right to war. If you got really excited at 17, you could go off to war. All the women in the room, we would go and volunteer at the hospitals and take care of the wounded who were coming home, or we'd sit there and roll bandages and do whatever they needed us to do. We would do that. Small children would wander around Tampa looking for metal pieces and scrap that we could collect and then melt down and make bombs or whatever the hell they're going to do with it. It is a total war. Rationing is another major component of the total war. These are words you have to be able to use easily and seamlessly. Rationing. We're familiar with it because, you know, pandemic. You can't go to Publix and buy everything you want, can you? No, it's more of a supply chain issue. But you're still being rationed. Have you seen the little signs at Publix that say customer limit, 2 per customer? Yes, that's rationing. Now, of course, if we were in a total war situation, would it be more severe? Yes, you'd have little booklets, and you could tell today I can buy a piece of meat and stuff like that. We had war ration books and stuff like that. Those types of things are happening, but we're kind of familiar with these concepts. Now, you do need to know that the men are going to war, so the women are going to the factory. So we have a massive movement and a massive migration of people. Men are leaving to go to the war, or some of them are staying home because their positions at home require them. Most are going off to war. Some are staying. All the women are now transitioning between running their families as well as working on the job. Okay, turning the tide. Here we go. So, up until 1942, Hitler's untouchable. Hitler is absolutely untouchable until 1942. That would be a year after the United States get in. So, as soon as the United States get in, do we start kicking butt? Hell no. Hell no, ladies and gentlemen. We were getting our butts kicked by both the Japanese and Hitler. Why? Because we were slow. Pre-joining the war, we should have been planning that we're going to get in the war, but we were denying what was happening. So while the rest of the world is building bombs, the United States is building refrigerators. So once we decide that we need to build bombs, it takes a while for our economy to be able to satisfy those needs. So we're very slow off our feet, okay? Now, in the European theater, the United States joined the war, and we're going to go to Africa first. You need to know this. We go to Africa first because we need to open the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal is under control of Hitler, so we need to liberate it. Okay? Now, you need to put a big star. This will piss off Stalin. Why does it piss off Stalin? Henry? Yes, Hitler is still waging a crazy amount of war against Stalin. He is losing millions of people, and he feels like this is not helping him. There are 3 major strikes that the Allies do to Stalin during the war. This is the first. The U.S. joined the war. They go to Africa first. They're going to beat Rommel, Rommel. He has the nickname of the Desert Fox. And he is one of the greatest war minds in the history of time. He's in the top 10 easily. Rommel, he worked for Hitler. He will be defeated after 2.5 years of trying to beat him. Okay? So, they're going to win in Africa, and then the Allies are going to head to Italy. Why are they going to head to Italy? Huh? Yeah, Italy's weak. Mussolini's like really bad at war. He's really good at talking about war, but he's like really bad at waging war. So we win in Africa, then we go to Italy, and we win in Italy. Eventually ends in Mussolini hanging by a light post. Goodbye! I mean, is this stuff at least interesting? Do you know most of this stuff?
Miss Bennett, do you have my movie list?
I made your movie list.
I made your movie list.
Girl, I got it right here. I posted it publicly. Oh my God, I'm so excited. What's your number 1? What's like you must watch?